Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you all for logging in to the Sikh Research Institute webinar today. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Gurvinder Singh and I'll be the host for today's session. And Inderpreet Singh will be moderating. The presentation will begin shortly, but just before we get started, I wanted to review a few housekeeping rules and let you know how you can participate in today's web event. Inderpreet Singh will then provide you some information about Sikh Research Institute and Inderpreet Singh before handing over for the main presentation. So what we're looking at is the GoToWebinar attendee interface, which is made up of two panels. And the viewer window is on the left, which allows you to see everything the presenter will share on the screen, and the control panel on the right. With that, within the control panel is how you can participate in today's event. So let's take a look at that. By clicking on the orange arrow, you can open and close your control panel. And from the view menu, you can set the control panel not to auto-hide when inactive if you prefer to always keep it open. The audio pane provides audio information. By default, you have joined the webinar via mic and speakers. Click Audio Setup to select your computer speakers or the best headset devices. If you prefer, you can join the audio via telephone by using the telephone option, and the dial-in information will display it, including an audio pin. During the presentation, if you have any questions, you may send them to moderator through the question pane. Simply type your question and click send. Inderpreet Singh will be answering all questions during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. As a reminder today, today's webinar is being recorded and everyone will receive an email within 7 days with a link to view the recording. If for any reason you experience any technical difficulties during the session, you can always see you can't see the main presentation, for example, please do not hesitate to contact me, Sikh Research Institute, via the chat panel. If you lose your internet connection or have to restart your computer during the session, you can always rejoin the session by clicking the URL that was included in the original confirmation email. Finally, at the end of the presentation, we'll launch a testimonial and feedback window, and we'd really appreciate it if you can take a few moments to provide your feedback and comments on how the session went and how we can improve future sessions. With that, I'll hand over to Inderpreet Singh, who will provide some background to the Institute, and Inderpreet Singh. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Inderpreet Singh and I will be the moderator for today's session. We are delighted to have you with us. Let me share a bit about the Sikh Research Institute, or SikhRI. Over the last 7 years, SikhRI focused on community development through programs such as leadership programs developing visionaries trained 3,000 worldwide, educational seminars stopping misinformation reached 300,000 globally, K-12 services teaching values and language skills served 41 schools, 500 teachers, and 1,700 students. Today's webinar is free of charge for all attendees, but not for SikhRI. If you get value out of today's session, I strongly urge you to consider donating through the website at www.sikhri.org. Let us begin our session today. Your presenter is Inderpreet Singh. Inderpreet Singh hails from Massachusetts, where he lives with his family. He serves on the board of directors of SikhRI as well as board of advisors of Sikh Coalition. Virji is a technology professional currently working for a multinational technology firm as director of solution architecture. His passion is Sikhi and Panthak-related community projects. He is heavily involved with Sikh youth camps, retreats, and conferences, where he conducts seminars, lectures, and interactive workshops on Gurmat-related topics. Can we go to the next slide there, Virji? We want to talk to you about SIDDHC. The Sikh Research Institute offers SIDDHC, a distinctive leadership development program for young adults seeking to increase their commitment towards the Sikh faith. This is a 2-week intensive immersion in Sikh culture, language, values, and community through understanding of Bani, scripture, Tawarikh or history, and Rath, which is discipline, held annually in San Antonio, Texas. Sessions on leadership development and community building also serve as key foundations for SIDDHC. Siddhikars find that the bonds they form with their instructors and other students will inspire them towards activism long after the program ends. Home cooking and Texas Hill Country enrich the experience. This unique learning opportunity will help you discover your inner self, build stronger relationships, and infuse the Sikh spirit. Please note, this year Siddhik will take place from 25th June to July 9th, 2011. For more information, visit SikhRI website. We strongly encourage you to help make today's session interactive. 20 minutes into the presentation, you'll have the ability to start asking questions pertaining to slides covered. If you have general questions, we urge you to wait until the end of the presentation. On the side panel, please state your name, city, and question. If you would like to verbally ask the question, please confirm that you have a microphone. Please address all questions to me, the moderator, or as shown as Narendrapal Singh on the panel, so I can compile them for Veerji. Now I would like to pass it over to Inderpreet Singh to begin today's presentation. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ji, go ahead.
Can? Okay. So thanks for joining this morning or afternoon, wherever everyone is. This is a pretty big weekend for a lot of people in the Sikh Panth. Or all of us in the Sikh Panth, but also, as we're going to see, not necessarily the Sikh community, but other communities also have interesting and important dates during this time of year. All the way, I mean, beginning next week is the Easter celebrations of the Christian faiths. There's other things going on in multiple parts of the world. The whole purpose of today's talk is going to be how Vaisakhi is portrayed, or how we have lived through it, maybe things that we already know, so there's going to be probably some redundancy over here. But at the end, we are going to try and show a progression from just pure Punjabi cultural and a journey into the Sikh ideals, where culture and religion and all the different dichotomies, so-called dichotomies of life were brought together by Guru Sahib in his presentation to us of how to live our lives as human beings on this earth, bringing positive change to humanity. So I don't know if many of you have gone through a similar type of presentation that has been done in the past in different Gurmat retreats and camps, but hopefully we have some new and exciting information today. As Narendrapal Singh had mentioned, keep it interactive as much as possible. I'm comfortable with taking questions in between as well. So what's the cultural significance, how the festivities are transformed or interpreted, these festivities are interpreted within Sikh ideals, and no session on Vaisakhi is complete, especially in the Sikh context, unless Vaisakhi of 1699 is discussed, and what really was the impact of that day. And really now the question is, how can we answer the call or use this for our current day-to-day lives? How significant is the Vaisakhi incident or event? How relevant is it today is how we're going to cover this. So simply to start off, as you or those that may be returning as webinar attendees always know, that we start with a quote that really is the inspiration for the session, inspiration for the event and the day. And Professor Puran Singh says that there was really a genius taking place of Guru Gobind Singh on utilizing that specific day in Vaisakhi in 1699. And he really, just in one sentence, covers it very well. In the Constitution of the Khalsa Commonwealth, the greatest act of genius of Guru Gobind Singh was when he transferred the divine sovereignty vested in him to the God-inspired people, the Khalsa. And this, by and large, is exactly the culmination of the Amrit ceremony. What was, everyone knows that at the end of the Amrit ceremony of 1699, the Khande Ki Pahal ceremony, as we know it, is when he asked for that blessing as well that he had just transferred upon to the Panj Pyare, or the 5 beloved ones, or as Professor Puran Singh calls in a lot of his writings, the 5 sovereign ones. And so this idea of sovereignty, divine sovereignty, of all different realms, is really the idea that is highlighted in all of the aspects of whichever angle you look from, where Vaisakhi is somehow tied to Sikhs as well. So it's the greatest act was when the divine sovereignty was transferred. I always say this to whoever I share views with, is that really looking through the Guru history and seeing the progression of how the Guru personality slowly, through a very methodical process, the authority of the Guru personality starts getting transferred into the community, sangats, and then different councils that are advising the Guru, all the way until 1699, when the Panj Pyare themselves get the authority bestowed upon them. So that's where we're going to be looking for, and we're going to see how that progression took place. So Vesak. In the South Asian calendar system, there are also 12 months. The Nanak Shahi calendar, which is the Sikh calendar, Vesak happens to be the first month, the second month, and the first day of Vesak is what is called Vaisakhi. There was a time, and some people still, there's a little bit of confusion, that the Sikh calendar, or the Vaisakhi of the Sikhs, is really the setting of the new year. So many people say, oh, it's the Sikh New Year is 1st of Vesak. And technically that is not correct, because according to the Nanak Shahi calendar, Chet, the month of Chet, ends up being, so 1st of Chet is the new year according to the Nanak Shahi calendar, and Vesak, second month, first day, Vaisakhi, is celebrated as the inauguration of the Khalsa. Some call it Khalsa Day, some call it Sikh Day, but that's really what we're talking about here. In the cultural context in Punjab and in other areas of South Asia, it's very significant, and for sure from a seasonal perspective it ends up being the harvest festival. So during the months of February, March, that time frame is really when the true spring season, so to speak, the buds are popping, and it is really by the time of Vesak when the first harvest, the spring harvest, is it takes place. So there's some ideas of Thanksgiving that are required. There's some ideas of a prayer or wanting of a successful crop, etc. So when it comes to the Harvest Festival, what's interesting is even in the Islamic context, and I think we cover it in the second slide over here, there's also spring and harvesting are themes that are related to the month of Vesak. In this multicultural / religious environment in South Asia, very interestingly, Gautam Buddha, of the Buddhist faith, is known to have attained nirvana under the Bodh tree at Gaya during this time. In Assam, Rangali Bihu; in Bengal, Nabbarsh; Tamil Nadu, Kerala, all of these areas in South Asia celebrate this day with some significance. Here's another thing I learned. I was just in India last week in Mumbai. There were, people warned me, hey, go to the airport early because April 14th happens to be the birth anniversary of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Ambedkar happens to be what we know in today's parlance as a Dalit, who was an author, one of the compilers of the current day Indian Constitution. So, but he's known as a champion of the Dalits. It was really huge celebrations, etc. That was going on, I was as I was thinking about this presentation that we're going to be doing today, I thought, hey, there are so many other significant things which per chance happen to fall in spring. But I thought, speaking of Gautam Buddha and Buddhism, everyone probably knows that Ambedkar converted, excuse me, converted to the Buddhist faith after a lot of controversy and some interconnection with the Sikh community. That's maybe probably a topic for another time. But there's some significance over there as well that is somehow from a different realm, another multicultural realm. So when it comes to the symbolic significance of Vaisakhi, it's also a new year in some sense for the different regions. And in the Islamic tradition, there is a word called Rabi, which means spring. So it is a crop. Actually, it's a Rabi crop, or it's a spring crop, and it's from the word. It's an Arabic word. It is reflected in 2 months of the Islamic calendar, what is Rabi al-Awwal and Rabi al-Thani, and this is the time frame when the crop is harvested. There's an abundance of this harvest that's taking place, so it's a sense of accomplishment that gets pervasive amongst the communities, or especially the agri and farming communities. The crop and the yield, here is a very significant interconnection with the culture of that region with the earth and nature. So the crop and the yield and the produce that comes as a result, no matter what denomination, whatever religious belief that might exist, there's a sense of blessing and thankfulness that takes place as well. So you can see clearly, this is I'm just pretty much setting the stage over here as to, Vaisakhi in the cultural normal sense. How does this time frame, this event, how does it relate to the common person? Or maybe during the time of Guru Nanak, the time of our gurus, or Guru Gobind Singh, what was in the mind, what was so significant about that time frame, and how did the gurus take that on and reinterpret it? Okay, I'm getting some, hopefully everyone can hear my voice correctly. There was maybe some disturbance in between. Okay, so in the Islamic or the Semitic tradition or the Arabic tradition, Rabi crops have some association with this time frame. In the Hindu system, everybody probably knows that the Hindu calendar system is based on the lunar calendar, and that is where all of the divisions of the calendar take place. However, if you take a look from the solar time frame or the solar time divisions, solar calendar, this is when the sun reaches its highest orbit point in relation to the earth. So it is also, in the Hindu system, Vaisakhi has a connotation or an association with what is called Uch, where the sun reaches the highest orbit point. So there is a fruition, there is an actual accomplishment happening, which is pretty much the end of spring, and where vegetation ripens. So in those of that community or that region, that associated with the Hindu system, they also had some symbolic ideas of that time frame being an accomplishment being achieved. End of spring, a change of season occurring. So some change, those are the kind of key words: accomplishment, abundance, blessing. These are where, when from a pure cultural context of that time, and even now, to some extent, these are the ideas that will be pervasive in the minds of the people. When it comes to the festivities, in this time frame, and here's some interesting imagery that we put in place. What happens is, the males, they dress up in their very, very traditional costumes, Bhangra music, but not in the old, new, modern context, but very classical Punjabi songs that have association with the farming and vegetation. Also, a lot of old cultural love stories and music from that time frame. That gets pervasive. The women dress up in their choices of costumes, and it's really a very festive, sharing and happy occasion where there's the folk culture that's applied over there. What we will see, or hopefully we'll try to present, is that what the Guru did is took all of that and did not diminish and reprimand and say this is not the way to do it, but took it to a different level where the folk culture was transformed into a divine culture. There was enthusiasm, there was, there's excitement, but he transformed that and created inspiration, forward-looking ideas for the people. When, because of the result of the yield from the crop, there was ambition that there will be a certain profit as a result, he gave glimpses of how to live our life in a very purposeful manner, and how does, not temporary but more permanent profit, how to live our life. So so what kind of profit could be attained which has more a permanent nature rather than a temporary nature. And communities got together, probably the villages, probably different areas. So there was some type of exclusivity, my community, my culture, our culture, where Guru Sahib just broke all of those barriers and created a more inclusive environment. One thing, it's not in any of the slides, I would definitely like to point over here. Our oral tradition tells us 1699 wasn't the only time when Guru Gobind Singh Sahib had asked his Sikhs to collect on Vaisakhi Day. In different secondary texts, the oral tradition that we know, the first time when collecting of Sikh Sangats from all the different regions on specific dates came during the time of Guru Amar Das Sahib. The third Nanak, it is said, everyone probably knows, had created the 22 manjis, which were distributed all across the Punjab region and other regions as well. What he would ask is that the Sangats from those different regions collect in Govindwal Sahib. Guru Nanak Sahib, after he came back from his Odysseys or Udasis, settled in Kartarpur, he asked Guru Angad Sahib to set up the sort of the center of the Sikh faith at Khadur Sahib. As Guru Amar Das Sahib became Guru, the tradition says that Guru Angad Sahib asked him to set up his center in Govindwal Sahib, which is where the famous Bauli was created, and Sikhs would collect over there for different purposes. Their background is coming from the folk culture, harvest season, ambition, festivities, and he would transform that and really work towards building of the community for those, where the culture is more of a divine and spiritual, yet social and political as well, where the Sangats would leave inspired, with a sense of pride, with a sense of purposefulness, and it would be Sangats from all over the place which had different cultures associated with them. So all life activity was seen is how is that life activity connected in a really pure sense with the divine. That was what was happening, and what we'll show really took place at that time. So the first place where Guru Sahib gives us a glimpse of this connection of nature, connection of this more human understanding of time divisions or seasonal divisions is in Gurbani. There is a genre of poetry in the South Asian world known as Barama, the 12 months, and it is used in the common cultural sense as more of a love poetry, where different months of the year, Chet, Visak, etc., are there's a connotation of two lovers having separation, wanting to meet, etc. Guru Sahib then transformed this and created more of a divine love story associated with the different months of the year. There are two Baramas within the Guru Granth Sahib, one in Rag Maj, one in Rag Tukhari, one revealed by Guru Nanak Sahib and the other by Guru Arjan Sahib. The first one, for example, is Vesak Bala Sakha Ves Kare. It goes for multiple lines, and the last line says, Nanak Vesakhi Prabh Pave Surt Sabd Manmana. So Vesak, as everyone I just mentioned, has to do with the culmination of the spring season. So what has happened is, the buds that were just coming out are now, fully bloomed. So in Vesak, what's so pleasant about Vesak is the branches blossom in new attire. So there's a rejuvenation taking place. And Nanak concludes, and he mentions that in Vesak, this is the time when finally one can meet Vaheguru, and then awareness and absorption of the Shabad is what really caused that blooming to take place, or that harvest of that fruition to take place. So there was this association with Shabad, which is the divine wisdom, which is association and understanding of the virtues of Vaheguru. It is when one associates with that, one creates a relationship with the Guru, that truly this idea of blossoming forth or coming to full fruition takes place. In the other one by Guru Arjan Sahib, the idea of the beloved, or separation, and this pang of separation, this desire to get together, or this unification, which we sometimes translate as self-realization, of the Sikhs, takes place. He explains it in that context. Vaisak deedan kyon vadiya, jinna prem bicho, Vaisak suhava ta lage ja sant pete hasoy. So that's the concluding line. But I think I want to read the whole Shabad, because it's actually very beautiful. I really like how it flows, but also the different imagery that Guru Sahib provides. Vaisak dhiran kyon vadiya, jinna prem bichoho, har sajan purak visar ke laggi maya toho, putra kalatra na sangatana, har avinasi oho, palach palach sagli mui, jhute tande moho. Ikkas har ke naam bin agge laiya khoe, daya visar viguchana prab bin avar na koe. Pritam charni so lage, tinki nirmal soe, Nanak ki prab benati prab milo parapat hoye. Vaisak suhava ta lage, ja sant pete har soe. So he starts with, how is it even possible for one who is separated from the beloved to be patient in this month of Vaisak? Vaisak is a month of fruition, month of achievement, and there's this kind of anxiety that hasn't taken place. What I have been consumed with, he says, is putra kalitra na sangatana. Those that I know are impermanent relationships. That's what I've been focusing on, and I haven't really, said, hey, I got it, har avanasi o, that relationship that never can get destroyed. Us de naal main judna si. I was supposed to, connect with that. Palach palach sagli mui jhute tande mo. And I'm basically, my frustrations of life are as a result of not being attached to the Shabad, which will come later. And not being attached with the one. Ikkas harake naam bin agge laya koi. So I've been losing everything. And then in the end he says, but there is an answer. There's a way to get out of this frustrations of life. And that is, Vaisakh will seem pleasing to me. Vaisakh will seem pleasing if I am able to make that connection through the Guru. Okay? Sant over here, it has an onkar underneath it, so it's a singular, right? It's the Sant. In Gurbani, many times you will see reference to Sant, and it could be in plural, like as in Satsangat. But when you see it in this context, it's definitely singular. Grammatically correct way of interpreting this would be that Vaisakh suhava ta lage, that Vaisakh ends up being pleasing when the Guru is the one who blesses that relationship with Vaheguru. Right? So when that realization occurs, not in isolation, or not that I have been able to achieve this, but when this sense of grace falls upon us, or we allow our relationship with Vaheguru to occur through grace from the Guru. So in Gurbani, it's purely at these realms where, it's pretty much conversational or idea-based, and it needs to be brought into some practical level. And this is what the Guru gives us direction in how to bring this time frame of Vaisakh and accomplishment and take it to that ideal level of divine celebration. So this is from the Gurbani perspective. And as I had mentioned, the Guru did something in 1699. So what was it? We're at this area of question now. What was it that happened in 1699 that it was the continuation of this idea of connecting with the divine? How did it affect the thought process and the lifestyle of the masses? What did this bring to the masses and the commoner, who were indulged with the cultural and festivity aspects of Vaisakhi? And of course, 1699. What are these? How do these pointers lead us to the institution of the Khalsa? So before I get into that, here's the progression of time frame. Guru Nanak Sahib, the Guru personality, establishes Kartarpur, and slowly the connection with the Sangat and the authority that the Sangat had as far as the running of the Sikh affairs increases. I'm going to tell you one more significant event that took place in between. Everyone knows this Sakhi, of course, of Guru Har Krishan Sahib. So when the time of Guru Har Krishan Sahib, the end time came near, as we say, in Delhi, he contacted smallpox. Everyone was anxious to know who the next Guru would be. And rather than name a person, rather than write down, okay, it's such and such person at this and this place, all he asked, or all he mentioned, as this is what our chroniclers write, is that he said Baba Bakale. So the moment that phrase was heard, everyone interpreted it to mean the next Guru happens to be residing presently at the village of Bakala. So what happens is, detractors of the Panth, everyone knows this story, there were 22 different gurus that set themselves up and saying, hey, I'm the Guru, I'm the Guru. And our tradition explains that Makkan Shah of Lubana, he was the one. And so, that's the Sakhi we know that he was the one. However, you can kind of imagine that there's a whole group of Sikhs or a whole Sangat really in search for where the next Guru is. And the confusion that the 22 fake Gurus may have put into, I mean, I can just imagine what was going on in the Sikh Sangats of that time, because it wasn't just, you know, a group of 50 or 100. I mean, we're talking about the progression of the Sikh communities was now in the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. However, Makhan Shah Lubana, through whatever process, there are many different versions of the Sakhi, but he recognizes and realizes Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib was the one who was the true Guru, because of that whole idea where he had promised that he would give 500 gold coins rather than just a small amount of gold coins that he was sharing with the 22 other Gurus. But the most significant aspect of this Sakhi, what is really the Sikhya, is that Guru Har Krishan Sahib gave the responsibility to the Sangat to realize or to recognize or to appoint who their next Guru would be. Previously, it was always the Guru personality who would mention it. But this is the first time that the Sangat had the huge responsibility of recognizing who their Guru would be. So the progression, the way I interpret it personally, is that the Gurus saw some progression in the Sikh community, some maturity, that Dekho ji, you've been growing up. I've been taking care of you, my child, my children. Now your responsibility is getting more and more, and therefore I give you the responsibility to recognize your next Guru. And then in 1699, the real revolution takes place, where the responsibility becomes so high. Guru Sahib feels that there's so much progression that has taken place in my community that I will bestow the Guruship itself upon the Guru, upon the community. Okay, so coming of Guru Nanak in this world was nothing less than, we believe as Sikhs, as a divine revolution. Or that should say inspired, not inspirited, but inspirited is another word. Inspired and awakened the community, right? The number one thing that was unique about Guru Nanak's coming was when he mentioned man, or not, I mean, just as a conclusion, it's not necessarily, he said exactly that, man tu jot sarup hai apna mool pachan, man harji tere naal hai gurmati rang maan. Where in the religious realm as well as the social realm and the political realm, there was divisions and inequalities. He said, you are an embodiment of the divine light. Vaheguru, you are a divine being, and therefore the only challenge for you, dear human, is to realize your divine essence and then take that as a potential to reach superhuman divine heights. Whereas in the past, what was the case was everyone was being told, you are born in such and such caste, therefore you must remain in such and such caste, and only by being subservient to the upper caste will you then have any even potential of progress. And in the political realm, basically there was enslavement, no rights, no, everyone was, out for themselves, and the political situations that we see today were very, very dominant back then as well. And so gurus came to inspire and awaken the masses so that they have the ability to be dignified themselves, but also see dignity in others. And for the common people, for the fighting for the rights and the justice for the common people, there's no argumentation, there's no, in the academic worlds, I think everyone is coming to a conclusion that, equality, at least from a theological perspective, fighting for the rights for commoners, elimination of domination of any kind, and the two ones we always mention are the religious domination, so where there's a set class of people that rule in the religious sphere, and a set class of people that rule for their own personal gain in the political sphere. the Sikh revolution, the thesis behind it is that there was a specific task that the Gurus embarked upon, was to inspire others to eliminate that domination in their lives and in the lives of others as well, if needed. So what he had done, as you know, everything that the Gurus created along this whole process of 200 years, 1469, Guru Nanak Sahib was born. Chroniclers say that really his, preaching tours or sharing of that divine message began in the 1499 time frame and 1699. So we're talking about 240 years, 230 years or so of development, where in the spiritual realm, as I mentioned, there's a direct relationship with the divine. And that is just the fundamental thing that once transposed in the practical realm focuses on creation of institutions that are around social justice and equal rights. For example, music was the purview of higher caste Hindus. So all the classical Indian music of that time. The whole Guru Granth Sahib and the whole Sangats were encouraged to learn Gurmat Sangeet. The whole Guru Granth Sahib is set to rags. So there is the first shattering or the elimination of domination of music as an art, in this case a divine art for the Sikhs, with giving open access to all. Food taboos were so rampant. Such and such caste cannot eat with such and such caste. There's this untouchability that we talk about today was prevalent then as well. But to shatter that domination of one group over another, Guru Sahib institutes the langar. Whereas not only there's a social, but there's also a, for the Sikhs, it's a way to practice how to do seva. Widow remarriage, rejection of sati and parda, those are things that are, once again, an elimination of the domination in the area of gender inequality, where, in the last one, where common language and independent script, where spirituality was confined to Sanskrit and the scriptures of the upper caste Hindus, Guru Sahib chose to use language that was common amongst the folks and a script that was also common amongst the folks of that, commoners of that time, and gave access to spiritual study to all. So you will notice, if you look, what we haven't been doing for ourselves nowadays is really looking at our history in the context of what impact did it really provide what impact did it really have on the institutions of that time. I had mentioned the 22 manjis of Guru Amar Das Sahib. A lot of people don't know that there were 22 districts of the Mughal Empire. So Guru Sahib, whether on purpose or not, was creating parallel institutions to whatever were the existing institutions of that time. And if the state does not provide justice, Guru Sahib creates a system where justice of even common problems like land disputes or other disputes, people would stop going to the Mughal courts and end up at the Sikh courts. So parallel alternative, which were for the purpose of, as I mentioned over here, elimination of domination, were being set up by Guru Sahib. So then we come to the Vaisakhi of 1699. I'm not going to go into the details of, the exact events that took place. Few highlights that I think are definitely worthwhile reviewing. Khalsa, it was revealed. There was not many, flyers going out from different gurudwaras. Congratulations on the birth of the Khalsa. Just a, kind of a pet peeve of mine is when we say that, anything that gives birth, that takes birth, is bound to die as well. From that perspective, the Khalsa was more like revealed, or Khalsa was inaugurated. Just like, a play goes through a lot of practice, and then on the day where, it gets released to the public, it's an inauguration type of ceremony. the Khalsa, what we should call our Baisakhi celebrations as more the inauguration of the Khalsa, or the Khalsa Revelation Day, or the Khalsa Day, just as needed. There's two interpretations of that word. I think the one that's most common, everyone uses, is Khalsa means pure. What we also know from our history is that Khalsa or Khalisa, Khalsa is a Persian-Arabic word connotating the land that is directly under the government. Implication of that is that the Khalsa is a sovereign entity. So it is not owned by a noble or a lesser politician of any kind, who would collect the taxes and then have to hand over the taxes further to the sovereign. This is directly owned by the sovereign, which comes in our oral tradition. We've heard the phrase Khalsa Akal Purkh Ki Fauj. So Khalsa belongs directly to Akal Purkh. So that whole idea of sovereignty that was in progression during those years, basically, and the word Khalsa does exist in our literature and in our Guru Granth Sahib, but it culminates into Guru Gobind Singh Sahib using that word for denoting his inaugurated, his prepared community, the Khalsa, which began with the Panj, or the five beloved. As I said, Professor Puran Singh calls it the five sovereign ones. And in many different traditions, you will know that there's some type of inauguration, some type of initiation. So there's must be of a giving of something, a sacrifice or a submission, in order to then get rejuvenated and rely on. Think about it, on the Baisakhi or the Baisakhi celebrations in folk culture, or the harvest. There's a lot of work that goes into planting the seeds, watering the seeds, and then cutting of the crop is really when that crop becomes useful for people to eat. So the death then gets transformed into a new eternal life. And old structures of the past, on whatever was the background of these five that came to give their heads to the Guru, moral, social, cultural, spiritual, there was a transformation taking place. Utilizing symbolically as well as literally the words from the times of Guru Nanak, where weapons of idea, of Shabad, leveraging of the collectivity of Sangat and the power of arms, Shastra. So weapons of idea, Ahran Mat Ved Hatyar. Ved Hatyar is where knowledge is really the weapons that are going to be used. And that ceremony, which we also have today, which many partake on during this time frame, has everything to do with the culmination of Shabad or Bani. It has to do with the Panj being collective, and with the Khanda or weapons, the power of arms simultaneously. So it's a kind of a culmination of all of the three. One more point I want to make, which is significant about Baisakhi of 1699, because nowadays, or since some time, many people are dividing our gurus, saying, "Oh, main ta ji Guru Nanak Sahib da Sikh haga, main ta Guru Gobind Singh ji da Sikh haga." The areas of South Asia where the original Panj Pyare came from, unfortunately I had jotted it down, I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not good at geography of the South Asia, but it is a fact of the matter that the areas where the Panj Pyare came from, those were areas where Guru Gobind Singh Sahib himself had never traveled. He had sent out the Hukamnama for all Sikhs from all different areas to come and join in Anandpur Sahib. However, he had not himself traveled there, so that direct connection with Guru Sahib as the personality and the Sangats of those regions were not there. However, the areas where the Panj Pyare came from were all the Sikhs of Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak had traveled to those places, had set up his preaching centers, had made that connection to the Sangat through the Shabad. Over the years of development, those Sangats sustained themselves, and when Guru Nanak the 10th sends out a hukam to an invitation for everyone to come to Anandpur Sahib on Vaisakhi, they arrive. And those that gave their heads happen to be those that, from a traditional or background perspective, had become Sikhs of Guru Nanak. This is very significant. I think no one really realizes this or talks about this, and these dichotomies that people create unnecessarily. Guru Nanak da Sikh haga, main to pehle panch the bade peaceful son, baki de fir baad vich shastra te sipahi di gal aa gayi, kitthon aa gaya. Forget about academics or non-Sikhs who may be doing intellectual analysis of our history. Even Sikhs themselves are starting to say that, which I feel really needs some concerted effort on our part to just expose to them the facts and let them make then conclusions as a result. And I'm not presenting any conclusions. All I'm presenting is, except for one who was from Punjab, where Guru Gobind Singh Sahib of course was there, the rest of the Panj Pyare were not from regions where Guru Gobind Singh Sahib had ever set foot, but in the form of Guru Nanak and the other gurus had indeed set foot. So, speaking of academics or historians that try and present what really was happening during the time of Vaisakhi 1699. In 1675, you can find it in Malcolm, you can find it in multiple Rehatname, John Malcolm and Hugel. These are European writers of the 18th century or 17th century. I, Guru Gobind Singh, shall assign such distinguishing marks to the Sikhs that a Sikh would be recognizable even among thousands, to carry out the revolution by the open profession thereof. This comes from what many of you have probably heard. Sawa lakh se ek ladaun tabe Gobind Singh naam kahun. Right? So we're presenting that this was not just one utterance in a obscure Rehatnama. There are even European writers who heard this, who maybe read this and have presented it in their writing. And then in 1699 itself, Bangu, Latif, McAuliffe, you'll find it in these type of writings where it says Guru Gobind Singh Sahib started arming the general body of the Panth with a view of creating a large force of revolutionaries. So it was the Guru who first increased the numbers of the Khalsa and then started the revolution, and really gave direction and action, specific action items for what the Khalsa should do. And I wanted to present over here really what are the things which already were taking place, but really what was happening is pure formalization of that. So, Char Varan Ek Varan Kiya, right? Basically, Guru Sahib on this day asked for the allegiance of the Khalsa, that you will indeed live, breathe, and think equality of mankind, where there is a society which is, you remember the elimination of domination idea that I had said? So it's non-exclusive, it's non-hegemonic, and the caste appellations or the divisions that come from, families and the names of families, I want to then continue my name for separate generations. He eliminated all of that, where Singh and Kaur became our names. And self-rule, self-realization, of course, but self-rule and sovereignty through the instruction of Shabad became the goal of all Sikhs, of all that would join in and be inspired in the community of the Khalsa. By Nandlalji, he presents very simple, different traits of what the Khalsa should have. And you can see from the words over there that these are spiritual as well. They can be interpreted to be very physical as well. So in all the realms of life, spiritual, political, economic, and social, all get some indication from the Guru through the words of his contemporaries like Bhai Nandlalji as to what the Khalsa should be like. Panch ko mare, param ko sade, निर्धन को पाले, दुष्ट को गाले, नाम स्यों जोड़े, बंधन क्यों को तोड़े, चढ़े तुरंग, करे नित जंग, शस्त्र को धारे, and dusht ko mare. So 5 enemies, vices: destroying of doubt, care of the poor and discipline of the wicked, connecting with Naam, destroying of any type of bondage, climbing a horse and waging war, wearing of arms and punishing the wicked. So you see all different realms. I mean, this is a really long poem from by Nandlal ji, but here are just some examples that we are giving it. Another great aspect which those that have partaken in the ceremony of Khandi Ki Pahul will know. For those that haven't, we wanted to share this with you, where what was taking place back then, which continues as our tradition today, when the Panj Pyare during the ceremony mention that, for example, from today your mother is Mata Sahib Kaur, your father is Guru Gobind Singh, your place of birth is Anandpur Sahib, your city of birth, your place of birth is Keshkar Sahib, your city of birth is Anandpur Sahib, and all previous affiliations are now gone, and there's a new life that's taking place. I like that little illustration we have on the side of there. You are now leaving the past and entering the present. And what was happening in this is really what we're calling the Nash doctrine. You have evidence of this in the Twarik Guru Khalsa of Gyani Gyan Singh. A lot of contemporary writers have used this idea of the Nash doctrine. And what we're showing over here is the different areas in which, as a result of 1699, the Sikhs that joined in through the ceremony of Khandi Ki Pahul, what's really happening from a symbolic and a physical or a realistic perspective. Dharam, Karam, Janam, Sharam, and Param. All these aspects are basically eradicated, and life is afresh and new. You see that whole crops and harvest, where it's just a brand new season that's beginning, and there's a fruition or there's a conclusion of sorts that's taking place. So you can read those words over here. So Karam Nash. Remember in the Hindu context, what deeds you do, they get accounted for, and then as a result, your next life is going to be in whatever strata of society, or you go back to an animal and go through the other things again. It's explicitly explained that as of today, all of those, there's freedom from your past deeds, and you're basically taking born in the house of the Guru, and you're starting. And in the house of the Guru, guess what? Not only is it in the house of the Guru, according to the Guru, this is divine nature. We are born divine. Mantu Jot Sarup hai, apna mool pachan. So this is where the clogs or the cobwebs of existing social, religious, and political hegemony had made people believe that they are not divine. And it was the ceremony of Khandi Ki Pahul where it's a reaffirmation, essentially, nothing new in my opinion, a reaffirmation that Singh or Kaur, you are divine. Janam Nash, so caste and family origin, being confined to whatever caste or family you were in, you are now in the family of Singhs and Kaurs. Embarrassment of any profession. Over here, I would always present the stories that, you go to India, or there's a taxi driver that was a Sikh taxi driver that had a bunch of young kids in his car, and they were making fun of him and making Sardar jokes as is probably usual, and he did not respond, did not retaliate, and didn't do anything. And all he did after the taxi ride was over is he gave every single one of those 4 boys a 1 rupee coin, and he goes, you guys were making lots of fun of Sikhs and Sardars. Go out into the streets. If you see any Sikh beggar, give them a 1 rupee coin. The point of that whole story was that Sikhs never, basically did not become beggars as a result, or are not beggars, and they would not be embarrassed if they are, for example, of a certain background or certain caste, to reach the levels and the heights that may be necessary to, or maybe their desire to reach in their careers. So this whole idea, there's this shudam of, oh, I'm of a lower strata in society, how could I be a writer, a poet, a musician, versus, oh, I'm in such and such society, how could I be a PhD, an educated doctor, lawyer, which we have plenty of today, but we're talking about the common person and the social realities of the South Asian context, which get exported into North America and Europe or Australia, wherever we are. That's an idea. That idea of domination gets demolished on 1699 Vaisakhi Day. And as for those that partake in the ceremony of Khande Ki Baho, that's the takeaway that is required. And Paramnash, of course, is from any type of rituals and religious prejudices of any kind. Definitely worth looking at from a historical perspective in Gyani Gyan Singh's writing, but also in what we have as our Khande Ki Baho ceremony today. I know there's, I've been going on. I don't know if there's any questions along the way. I've been talking quite a bit.
Hanji Virji. So thank you very much for an enlightening presentation. We are doing very well. We are also running out of time, so I would rather that we ask Kultar Singh ji's question. He's saying that regarding the Panj Pyare, he was always brought up being told that Guru Gobind Singh ji beheaded Bakri. Okay. However, recently he heard a Gyani ji preaching that they were indeed beheaded, the Pyare, Panj Pyare, and then miraculously had their heads returned to their body. Is there any evidence, Kultar Singh ji is asking, of either of these events, and if the latter, surely because this is against the laws of science, and are we to believe this miracle was performed by the Guru? Thank you.
Okay. It's not surprising that this question comes up. It obviously comes up every time. I'll tell you my personal view on this. For me, such things are, to be honest, inconsequential. But that doesn't mean that others don't have these curious questions, and they're very important for them. But this is what I would present. When you say, do we have evidence? So in the research that we've done, yes, there are writings from different authors, and all of them present different views on that. However, of any of the eyewitness accounts of what we have. So there's two different pieces of evidence that we have. One are eyewitness accounts. For example, there was a spy in the, and I don't know the name off the top of my head, but if you send us an email, I can get you the exact reference of the name and the book. But a spy from the Mughal court who was definitely within the crowd at that time has an eyewitness account that has been written. That is available to us. And his account says that they were taken into a tent and then brought out. And Guru Sahib would come out with a flashing sword that had blood on it. So no opinion as to whether it was cut or not cut, just a presentation of the facts of what they saw. So unless someone was in the tent with Guru Sahib and saw that there were bakris being slaughtered or otherwise, I don't think there's any, it's all opinion and interpretation. But, for me, the real beauty of that day, it was indeed a miracle. The miracle was where, downtrodden and the commoners became the, purveyors and became the sovereigns. right? That's where what I believe the miracle is. From the scientific perspective, whether that was done or not, I have no opinion to present, to be honest. The other aspect that I would give you, you never answer a question. I would never answer a question without seeing whether it's in consonance with Gurbani or not. But Gurbani obviously is of interpretation. Sadgur mera mar jiwale, right? You have that. You got to look at the context of the whole Shabad. But over here, it's, you know, everyone is liable to make mistakes. The only perfect entities in this world, so these entities that can never make mistakes, can never, you know, have issues, are Guru and Vaheguru. Pullan andar sabko abul Guru karta. So the Sadguru has a lot of potentialities, but it must be interpreted in the correct context. I just mentioned in the previous lines over here where the Janam was Nash, or I also mentioned where there's a, I think it was where the Panj Pyare was as a death and a new eternal life. It could be symbolic, it could be physical. The point is that a new type of being was being created, was being inaugurated on that day by Guru Gobind Singh Sahib. What I wanted to present, what the real miracle of that day is over here. So everyone knows in 1708, when Guru Gobind Singh Sahib was leaving this worldly body, he ordained that the Guru Granth Sahib will be our eternal Guru. On 1699, what did he do? After the Khande Ki Pahul ceremony, everyone knows this, there is no controversy around that. He asked for the blessing of Khande Ki Pahul from the Panj Pyare itself. I mean, the receiving of Amrit can come only from the Guru. And that's I think, a fundamental precept in our faith. In the current Khande Ki Pahul ceremony, you cannot have a Khande Ki Pahul ceremony with only the Guru Granth Sahib in the room. And you know, Guru Granth Sahib in the room, I go in there and I sip of water that's in front of Guru Granth Sahib. That is not the initiation ceremony of the Sikhs. Or I cannot go into a room in which there are 5 Tyar Bar Tyar Sikhs, but there's no Guru Granth Sahib present physically at that time as well. You need both at the same time. So this perception of our Guru, the miracle was that the Guru converted the responsibility. Remember I mentioned that Sakhi of Guru Har Krishan Sahib, where they gave the responsibility to the community to go recognize your next Guru. What the miracle, if you want to say it, or the progression and the development on what happened in Vaisakhi of 1699 is Guru Sahib bestowed that sovereignty, that divine sovereignty within the Khalsa Commonwealth. Until today, every single Khande Ki Pahul ceremony, we have representatives of the Guru Khalsa Panth and the Guru Granth Sahib, which then bestow this new life upon their Sikhs and make them and help, allow them to enjoy and join the Sikh revolution via the Khalsa, right? So I think that's really what we're talking about. What I wanted to, taking that idea, there are 2 major issues that I think our communities are fighting with today, where we really have to take a serious look at, and that is the casteism, the tribism, groupism. You can call it whatever you want. You know, Jat Pape is one area of this groupism, the different Jathebandis and their different maryadas is another area, and then gender discrimination, female and male feticide is another one. In our gurdwaras, how many gurdwara committees do we have that have females within the ranks and not? These are the kind of things that, knowing the real message of the Vaisakhi of 1699, should be very easy to respond to. Here's another one, is our challenge to our identity and our values. The biggest problem that, and I've been traveling and doing these seminars and events, the biggest problem is we are going through a very major identity and value crisis. So what is our legacy, what is our history, and for example, what is the the significance of Vaisakhi? And the only way we can answer it is if we really look at it from all aspects of our Bani. What are the historical incidents and what is their significance, and what is our current life discipline and traditions in our community. So as Sikh Research Institute, we don't give you exact answers. This is some complaints that people tell us is yaar sanu das de nahi ki karna ki chahiye, kis tarah karna chahiye. We'll give you some ideas and direction. As direction with Jao, we can for sure, because we're trying it ourselves in our own lives, in our groups, and we've studied the different movements of Sikh within Sikh history. I just came up with these three things that solves the problems we talk about over here, and definitely solves this identity crisis that I think we're going through right now. Number one thing that all Sikhs should do today is start learning Gurmukhi. The only way that we can have our direct connection to the Guru Granth Sahib is through learning of Gurmukhi. That doesn't mean that we're not going to read English interpretations and Sikhi to the max, but our language, our script, is what sustains our community. That's a guarantee. You can ask any linguist or social science, PhDs, that language is really the connection to the survival of a community. Study and read anything. Our problem is we are not focusing on studying and reading, whether it be spiritual, scientific, religious, social, economic. So become the PhDs that we need. Become the avid readers that our families must have. And don't run away from the community. Don't not attend the Gurdwaras, although the Gurdwaras have a serious problem of development, and we're very cognizant of that. If the Gurdwaras are not a venue where you can engage, create different venues. Take the exact example of what the Gurus did. The justice system of the 22 districts of Akbar were not serving the people or serving the purposes or the needs of what the people required. The Guru went and created 22 manjis. He enabled he didn't go out and create it, he enabled the population to do that. The Guru has enabled us, let's go do that. If the Gurdwaras that today are not working, then there are alternatives, and this is, by the way, been done in our history. During the late 19th century, early 20th century, when the Gurdwaras were in the control of the Mahants and corrupt individuals, the Singh Sabhas created separate Gurdwaras. All the Singh Sabha Gurdwaras we have worldwide today, not just in India and Punjab, but in North America, Europe. If you have the word Singh Sabha in front of it, that was because the historical Gurdwaras or the established Gurdwaras were not facilitating the learning of Sikhi that was required by the masses. So there is precedence in this area. Engaging with the community is a must. The way we do it, we don't have the answer at the moment. This is just, I thought, is an excellent slide. Some people, when we were going through our Khalsa schools, as little kids, we memorized the names of the 10 Gurus, the Panj Pyare, the Char Sahibzade, the Panj Takht. Here's another interesting one, which has been as part of curriculums of the past of our Khalsa schools, is what are the 5 blessed forts? It's Keshgar, Sahib, Lohgar, Holgar, Anandgarh, Fatehgarh. Every single one has a significance in there. And that significance goes from the realm of what is our identity, what is our thought process supposed to be. So identity of the hair, authority of the hair, the connection with steel and ammunition, the need for training. Holgar was, Hola Malla was celebrated over there. Anandgarh, city of bliss and strategy of how to move the community forward, and ultimately the Fatehgarh, where victory and celebration takes place. So the question should be, are we sustaining our 5 blessed forts? Where are institutions that assure that the freedoms that the Gurus bestowed on us continue to be given as well? those were the two things that I wanted to cover. I'm going to leave this last slide up, adapted from Puran Singh's work called Creation and Purpose of the Khalsa. And maybe the last line is really what's very interesting for me. The Khalsa in ordinary life proves himself a loving spouse, a kind parent, a noble friend, a selfless saint, and a brave soldier to defend the honor of the weak. Every avenue of life, every realm of life should be covered by the Khalsa, not just in the Gurdwara, not just in the individual home. Engaging with the community in all aspects of life is really the legacy of the Khalsa. We have probably halted on it in some sense, but I think if we take the vision of what Vaisakhi of 1699 really has for the Sikh faith, which was taking it from a festival of culture, but taking it to other levels as well, while not diminishing the existing cultures, but enhancing it, I think then the purpose of the Khalsa, the reason of Vaisakhi 1699, true celebration of it is when we bring change into our lives and into our communities.
Hanji Virji, this is Narinderpal Singh, and just wanted to thank you very much for this excellent presentation on this very auspicious moment or time or week in the whole year, and a very timely and an appropriate presentation, very motivating as well. We have unfortunately run out of time, and we would need to move things along, wrap it up. For the attendees, thank you very much for joining us. If you've got questions and feedback, please do use the survey that the coordinator will set up shortly. We thank you for your attention. My apologies to those of you who may have had questions, but due to time constraints we could not address them today. I would now just hand it over to the coordinator to wrap things up. Thank you all very much again. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.